Welcome back to another episode of The Gentleman's Journey. I'm Jack Bell. We're here at the 183rd convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm joined today by Frankie Wu of Epsilon Tau. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Frankie. I'm the current number one of Epsilon Tau, and I also helped found Epsilon Tau 2 years ago.
Very cool. It's good to have you here. Let's start at the beginning. I always like to hear how brothers came to find Chi Psi and that experience, what led them up to there. Can you walk us through your first experiences with Chi Psi and what led you here today?
Yeah, so I wasn't interested in joining any Greek life at all going into college, but after my freshman year of college, one of my high school friends, John Michael, who is a Phi Delta, he reached out to me just asking for a casual dinner, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I haven't seen him in a year, I'll eat dinner with him. I show up to the dinner, and he's there with your old number one, Nate Pittman. And so within a 2-hour dinner, I went from not being interested in Greek life at all to being really ready to start Chi Psi at Purdue.
Very cool. I know both of them very well, and they're good at convincing. Is there anything from that dinner or anything afterwards that made you feel like this is something that you wanted to pursue and found a new Alpha at Purdue University?
Yeah, it was really just talking to them and hearing their own experiences within Chi Psi, because initially I went into it with really negative stigma of Greek life and fraternities, but after talking to them and seeing how they had a really genuine, fun, memorable, and an experience that helped them grow as individuals, giving them leadership positions and just helping them mature as young men, it really made me question my initial thinking and towards Greek life. And so I was like, maybe I'll give it a try. And so after that dinner, they took me out a couple more times. I went to a golf scramble. Never golfed before.
Yeah.
It's really bad at golf.
It's fun though.
But it was really fun, yeah. And so after I had those experiences with the Kentucky guys, I was like, I can build that and share these same experiences with people at Purdue. And so that's kind of why I got into it and started it.
Very cool. Well, it's cool to see just how far you've come already.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know watching, Epsilon Tau was chartered last convention at the 182nd convention in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And you're the current number one. What have been some of your biggest challenges, you think, as this first year of being an official Alpha comes to an end?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of fun that comes with being a new Alpha, but the biggest challenge for me this year was trying to grow within a really confined space, because moving into this past school year, we had a single house that we were going to use as a mini lodge, like a satellite house, but that only housed 5 people. And so whenever we have events where all 30 of our guys showed up, that house filled up really fast, and it was a decent space for our first year. I'm glad we had it. It was way better than trying to do anything like a dorm, for sure.
Yeah.
But it still was way too small, and so then trying to recruit on top of our initial founding class of 30, and then adding more people, and then by the end of the second semester we had 47 members, then trying to fit all those guys in that house, I mean, we couldn't do anything, so it was really suffocating.
For sure.
And luckily we were able to secure a lodge for next year, which I think we'll talk about.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But if we hadn't done that, honestly, I don't know where we'd be at right now, because it was just getting really hard to grow.
Yeah. And that's not a bad problem to have. I'm sure it's a pain, but not a bad problem to have so many people interested and bought in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Kind of run out of physical space. Transitioning from there, what do you think some of your biggest successes have been in this past year?
Yeah, we'll definitely get in the lodge.
For sure.
And we've had a decent amount of success, just externally. Just getting a baseline for reaching out to sororities and getting our names in their doors. So fingers crossed, hoping to extend those relations and improve on those in the next few years. But the lodge was definitely our biggest success this year, and it's really what we're focusing on moving into the fall.
Cool. Can you elaborate on the new lodge a little bit? I know you kind of touched base on it a little bit, but I know there's an opening ceremony coming up this year. And can you just talk us through kind of what the process was like getting a lodge, and then what you're excited to do about it?
Yeah, the process was super random. It seems like everything that's happened in Chi Psi it just kind of falls.
It just works out. Yeah.
Because we've been looking into getting a lodge, a few years down the line. Because we heard from Kentucky, I think it was 3 or 4 years, maybe longer into your founding.
4 years.
Yeah, and so in my mind, I was never gonna deal with lodge stuff during my term as number one. Like
Yeah,
that
was 2 years down the line.
going into my position. It didn't cross my mind at all. And so when members were like bringing up like, oh, this house is empty, like, can we try to look into it? In my mind, I was like, we can look at it, but it's probably not going to go anywhere. So we ended up touring another house, a much bigger one, that our guys really wanted, but it was going to be so expensive. And so then that kind of fell through. And as soon as that fell through, randomly, the Zeta Psi guys, because we're moving into the Zeta Psi house, they reached out to Pittman and they were like, hey, you reached out last year asking, like, potentially to rent our house out.
Yeah.
Would you still be up for that? And that was in like February. So all of our guys were already locked into leases. So that was a challenge too, getting everyone out of their leases and into the lodge. But yeah, the opportunity just presented itself and we just seized it.
That's awesome. Living in the lodge these past 2 years it's so much fun and it adds so much to the brotherhood and things that you do. So I'm excited for that. I'll hopefully be at the ceremony as well. That would be cool. Next, as current number one, you have a lot of responsibility, and I feel like Chi Psi does a really good job of providing programming and education that helps you be equipped for those tasks. Can you tell us a little bit about the Vern and Judy Eastock mid-year leadership retreat and other road conferences that you've been to and how you've learned from that?
Yeah, I mean, all of the leadership programming has been super useful. Some of it can get repetitive at times, but no matter what, like, they're all good opportunities to just meet other brothers from other alphas and just learn what they're doing, get advice from them. Malar was great. I mean, number one conversations, and even at the Spencer Institute last year, I went to the number one track, so meeting them and talking to them there was also just very insightful, and I think those opportunities really are what make Chi Psi so special, because I know some people in other fraternities and they don't do any programming like that, and even if you don't take any advice given in the leadership program directly, making those connections that you can then reach out to later if you have any problems, that's really the most beneficial part of that programming.
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like having helping hand and someone to fall back on is the most important thing. Just to struggle alongside other people.
Exactly.
It's not easy, I'm sure, but you seem to be doing a great job, and I applaud you for that. How is leading a young alpha specifically, one that's just still in their starting phase? I know you mentioned outgrowing size and whatnot of the physical locations. What has been interesting to you about that as compared to, I guess you don't have the hindsight of leading a well-established alpha, but what has been interesting to you about leading a younger alpha?
It's just exciting because everyone is really bought in and excited. We don't have issues that I've heard about at other alphas where, you know, the senior engagement is really low because we just didn't have any seniors.
Exactly.
So everyone was just really engaged from the start, and sometimes I think their ideas are a little bit too much, and so I have to be kind of like the father figure because I'm like one of the oldest guys, and I would be like, no, that's a bad idea, you know, come in. But I just like, there's so many ideas that come from them, a lot of really young guys who are just really energetic and excited to start it. So I think for me, I just kind of take a step back, and if they want to do something, I just like, I approve it or I don't approve it.
Yeah.
And I just let them do whatever they want because they have way more ideas than I do, and they just excited to do stuff. So.
I think you mentioned exciting and bought in. I think those are two major components of what a healthy alpha looks like.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Do you have any advice that you give to aspiring number ones or other brothers looking to join leadership? You've kind of seen it from beginning to end, so
don't underestimate it. I think when I saw our number one last year, I was like, it seems like not too bad of a job. I feel like most people within the alpha don't really understand what the number one does, because the number one does a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of responding to emails from CO and also from like the school FSCL office. Like you're constantly corresponding with them.
Yeah.
And the rest of the alpha doesn't see that at all. So like I was number 2 last year, and I was like, number 2's pretty chill. I like number 2. I just like delegate, plan these things. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And I moved to number 1, and I'm like, wait, the number 1 last year did all of this random administration.
Yeah.
So I would say you have to be really organized going into it and make sure you're on top of your stuff, because I mean, there are just times when you get bombarded by random emails from people you don't want. A lot of people always advertising this stuff since you're the point of contact on the school website. All the apparel people reach out to me, and I don't want to respond to
Yeah.
this anymore. So it can be draining, but ultimately I think it's really rewarding. For me, my favorite part about being number one is leading Alpha every Sunday, because I just love looking around the room, seeing everyone there, because that's like the one time that pretty much everyone always shows up, and it really makes you feel like part of that community and part of that brotherhood. So
That's super cool. And to wrap it up, I've asked this to everyone I've talked to.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite Chi Psi memory thus far? If you had to pick one or two, it doesn't matter.
yeah, I have a lot of fun in Chi Psi,
Yeah.
but my favorite memory, and I don't probably like one of my best memories of my life,
Yeah.
are when we chartered for our petition last
Mhm.
year. I mean, going up on stage, presenting
Yeah.
at convention in front of 300 plus people, however many it was. I mean, it was literally a once in a lifetime opportunity and like experience. And then killing the presentation, leaving the room, coming back, and then them celebrating. I mean, I'll never forget that moment.
That's awesome.
Like that, and then maybe having my first kid or getting married.
Yeah,
I feel
that'd be up there in the same,
like,
same playing field.
yeah, so incredible memory.
Very cool. Well, that's all we have. I appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to talking to you guys again.